Hi, this is Michael Bianconi from Southern Fire Guitars, and recently I've had a few people ask me a few questions such as how do I determine what the scale length should be on my cigar box guitar, and how should I use a fretting template? Well, in this video I'm going to go over a few of those answers to those questions. Stick around. So while the birds are singing and the breeze is blowing, let's get right into it. Choosing the scale length for your cigar box guitar is mostly a preference as to what you like to play, what you feel comfortable building, but not in every case, which I'll explain using these boxes over here. Now with these four cigar boxes here, I would consider this a large, and then a medium, a small box, and a very small box, or a tiny box, or an itsy bitsy box, which is kind of fun to say. So this large box is about 12.5 inches. The medium box is about 10.5 inches. The small box is about 8 inches, and the itsy bitsy box is about 7.25 inches. Now you can take any one of those boxes and put whatever size scale length neck you want on it, but you need to use discretion, because would you want to put a 25-inch scale length neck on this? Probably not. Now this one here would make a nice little ukulele box with a 19-20-inch scale length neck. Would work perfect for this little one right here, the itsy bitsy. When I first started building cigar box guitars, I was building them using a 25-inch scale length. But then I thought, I'll use a 23-inch scale length. This way I can use less frets. But that's not the case. Just because the scale length is shorter, that means the frets are closer together. That didn't click at first. Now what I have found is the longer the box, the shorter your fretboard is going to be, which means less frets on the instrument. The shorter the box, the longer the fretboard is going to be, and there'll be more frets on the littler boxes. Yeah. Now with these three size boxes here, which is your normal cigar box guitar sizes you'll find out there, what I call small, medium, and large, you can use whatever scale length suits your fancy. That's discarding the dinky one over there. Well, you have found your box that you want to use to make your cigar box guitar. You have your fretting template. Now, how do you use that fretting template to mark the fret slots on your neck? Well, I have some pretty valuable tips. Now, I have a neck blank here. This is maple. And what I do first is I mark where the nut's going to go. So I put a little line right there. And the guitar I'm going to do is on a 25-inch scale. Not that that matters, you can make it any scale length you like, but what I'm going to make this one is 25-inch. So what I do is I take 25 and I put it right exactly on where the nut's going to go. Then I go down to the end and I just mark where the bridge is going to go. Now this marking I just do so I can have a visual of what's going on as I'm building this guitar. So there's my nut, where my nut goes. There's where my bridge goes. We have 25 inches in between. Now in the middle of 25 inches is 12.5. That's going to be from the nut to the 12th fret is going to be half the distance. So it's going to be 12.5 inches to the 12th fret, wherever that's going to be. Now I have two different kinds of fretting templates here. I've got it placed on this red shirt so you could see them better. Now this one is a 23-inch scale length template, and these both come from cbgiddy.com. This one is 25-inch. It's one of those clear plastic ones that has the little slits there and the nut. Now what I do first when I get one of these things is you'll see where they have the nut marked. It's this big black area right here. It says nut. Now that's almost a 1/4 inch right there. And over here where it says nut, this is almost little over 1/8 of an inch. So you have to know exactly where your nut is going to go, because you don't want it to be a 1/4 inch off, because that's a pretty big slot there. So what I do, this one's a 25-inch scale length, so I will take my ruler and I'll lay the end right in the middle of these little slots here, because when you draw your line using a pencil, it's going to go right in the middle of that slot. That's where your fret line is going to be drawn. So I mark in the middle of the 12th fret over here. Now I know half of my 25 is 12.5 inches. So then I go down here and I find out where in this big slit here is 12.5 inches, which on this template, it's right at the beginning of this cut here. Right there. So you see I marked a little line with a Sharpie there and drew some arrows there. So my nut has to go right here, up against, that's where my nut goes. Now if you put your nut on this side or in the middle, your nut could actually be 1/8 of an inch to maybe 1/4 of an inch off when you do your fretting. And if your nut is 1/4 inch off, you're going to have a really hard time setting your intonation or getting that thing in tune. So it's very critical that these are placed exactly in the exact right place. Now on this 23-inch scale length, now half of that is going to be 11.5 inches. So if I put my ruler right there on 12, the 12th fret, and go over 11.5 inches, it comes right, I put a pencil mark right there, right there. Now that's where my nut needs to go. Now when I say that's where my nut needs to go, if I was using this little screw as my nut, which I am, this screw has to be right in the middle of where that line is, because the nut is measured where the strings go over the nut and when the strings go over the bridge. So this nut has to go right there. So when you're building the guitar or your fretboard, you have to mark it where your nut is right in the middle of your 11.5 inches, right there. That's where you're going to place it. And then this way, as you're fretting up the neck and you get to the 12th fret, like this one over here, this one's on a 25-inch scale. So if I lay my ruler right on the 12th fret right there, you'll see that the nut is right exactly on 12.5. That's where the strings go over the middle of the screw. Very, very important. So when I do my fretboards, if I'm using this as my nut, my fretboard, I will cut a little groove out for this little screw. So when I cut my groove out, this line would be in the middle of the groove that I cut out. So when I put this screw in the little groove, it's placed where it's right in the middle of that line. This way, from the nut to the 12th fret will be exactly half the distance of my scale length, if that makes sense. So if I'm using these little plastic templates which are very, very easy to use, I got it marked, like I said, at the middle mark. I will just lay that right where my nut goes, draw my fret lines, and cut my fret slots. Pretty simple. Placing your nut and your frets accurately up the neck will make your guitars sound a lot better. My name's Michael, and I'll see you in the next one.